I seem to be on a kick of pulling out some commanders that I haven't used in a while this week. Tatyova, Benthic Druid versus the Mimeoplasm. And that hand is pretty bad, but it does make a turn 3 Tatyova. But a turn 3 Tatyova into nothing isn't... I'm just going to hope that we draw into something to do with all that mana. We can get into a Consecrated Sphinx pretty well, at least. I'm going to save the Flooded Strand for the extra landfall triggers from Tatyova. Okay, Cultivate. Yeah, let's see if our opponent scoops to all this extra mana. Well, apparently not, so good for our opponent. That's the Mimeoplasm. A 5 mana Sultai commander, a 0/0. Enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 creature cards from graveyards. It enters as a copy of one of the creatures and gets +1/+1 counters equal to the power of the other creature. Tatyova is pretty simple, a 5 mana Simic commander, a 3/3 with landfall, gain a life and draw a card. And Mimeoplasm getting into some ramp of their own in Farseek. I think now is a good time to get into our Tatyova. And we'll draw a card twice from this fetch. There's another fetch for us. And we'll just get down. I'm not going to bother pretending that we've got a Force Spike or anything like that. I doubt our opponent would play around a Spell Pierce or anything anyway. So we'll just get the card draw going now. And throw it back to our opponent. Okay, Demonic Tutor. I think we've gotten too far ahead of our opponent now. I don't see what they're going to get going with the Demonic Tutor, but maybe a Lignify or something like that could help them. But we've got Chord of Calling to get rid of that anyway. Oh, a Gilded Drake. Yeah, that's a pretty good thing to go for. So that means that we need to bounce our Tatyova somehow. Well, that's one way to bounce your Tatyova. Jace the Mind Sculptor. So our opponent's kind of just given us a 3/3 flyer. Get this land into play and go for our Jace the Mind Sculptor. That we just very luckily ripped off the top. We bounce our own Tatyova there. And then unfortunately can't use Mystic Snake. But we didn't want our opponent to keep hold of that Tatyova because it is card draw for them. So let's just leave it at that. Okay, Coiling Oracle could help them with their mana issues here. Yep, they're getting to more blue mana, so they're pretty much set there now. Oh, and a Mana Crypt, yes, so they're definitely set now. I think keeping hold of this Mystic Snake is a good idea. And a Consuming Aberration. Power and toughness equal to the number of cards in our graveyard. And whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land, and they all go into the graveyard. So not only are they wanting to fish for their own creatures in their own graveyard, but looks like they might just be operating out of our graveyard actually. Mimeoplasm typically is self-mill, but Consuming Aberration doesn't fit in line with that plan quite. Okay, let's have a look. We'll brainstorm with Jace first. See if we want to shuffle any cards away with Polluted Delta. Yeah, just getting rid of some lands is okay, I think. Now then, do we want to play Nazal? We have the 7 mana to cast it, but I think we wait a turn. Yeah, we have Counterspell now, so I think it's a good time to get Tatyova down. And then we can go for the Polluted Delta. That will draw us a card. We'll crack Polluted Delta to shuffle lands away, or the one land away that we put on top. And we've got a Heroic Intervention, which I don't mind holding on to either. So let's go for Brainstorm now. Okay, we've got some really good stuff there. So let's go Chord of Calling. and we'll put a Harrow on top. And then we'll have to discard a couple of cards. I think we can just get rid of the forests. We'll hold back the Gilded Drake as a blocker. And let's get rid of those. We can get some lands out with Nature's Law and the Harrow next turn. Noteworthy that the Consuming Aberration has gone from a 2-2, I think it was, up to a 6-6. So we'll definitely be chumping that with the Gilded Drake. We don't really want this in the graveyard because our opponent could bring down Mimeoplasm as a copy of it. But needs must, we don't really want our Jace dying either. Okay, we'll see how much we get milled here. 5 cards enter our graveyard. We had some forests on the top, an exploration, Wayward Swordtooth, Chord of Calling and Harrow. We obviously knew about those two. Let's see if they cast another spell. They might go for Mimeoplasm here. Actually, no, they won't go for Mimeoplasm because there's no creatures in the graveyard apart from that Wayward Swordtooth, which doesn't really do anything for them. Oh, Frost Titan. Do we want to mess around with a Frost Titan? Not really. This does mean that we're going to have to hold up Mystic Snake so that the Mimeoplasm doesn't come down as a copy of that. And then we're definitely chumping with the Gilded Drake here. So that's another creature in our opponent's graveyard. Leyline of Anticipation is good, but I don't know how good it is just yet. We could bounce that big creature with Jace, and that gives us a turn. Get down Guy's Cradle and see what we draw into. Wood Elves is more mana, and it sort of pays for itself because it adds mana with the Guy's Cradle, but it also comes in with a land, so effectively it only costs 1 mana for a 1-1. Plus it's gain a life and draw a card. Ancient Tomb is pretty good as well, that's just even more mana. We definitely want to hold up the Mystic Snake, and we can chump with the Wood Elves on the Aberration. The problem is it mills us even more whenever our opponent casts a spell. So I think I do just want to bounce it, to be honest. And then I'm going to go for Leyline of Anticipation because it's one of those cards that I never want to cast. Because it's a lot of mana to put into it, but there's a lot of upside as well. So if I get that down now, we can still hold up Mystic Snake, and if there's nothing we want to counter, we can go for Nature's Law and Heroic Intervention if we want to. So let's just leave it at that. Perfectly happy to sit back here. Utopia Sprawl going on to the breeding pool. You typically want to put those on basics, but our opponent doesn't have a basic land or a basic forest in play. And this thing needs to enchant a forest. And yeah, the Consuming Aberration comes down again. We could counter that. Then the Mimeoplasm comes down as a copy of it. And then we have to worry about commander damage. Yeah, I think we just have to hope that we get into some answers here. So we'll go for Mystic Snake onto that. We're just really trying to... This is a control deck, so we're just trying to drag the game out as long as we can at this point. And a Nature's Claim onto the Leyline of Anticipation is... It's not too bad. I'd rather have that around, obviously, but it's not the worst thing that our opponent could do to us. Nissa, Vastwood Seer, we can easily flip over. Let's brainstorm before we do anything else. Okay, Curse of the Swine I quite like getting into. Get rid of Nature's Law, and I think we can get rid of Ancient Tomb actually, because we'll get a land from Nissa, Vastwood Seer. So let's just start trying to put threats on the board at this point. We'll shuffle those cards away that are on top of the library. And we'll get down a land for the turn. That will get a lot of triggers. Rampaging Baloths gives us a 4/4 beast. We know what Tatyova does, and Nissa flips into a Planeswalker. And we run this as a commander on the channel. It's a surprisingly good commander. Let's just... Yeah, I think I'm okay with just revealing a card. It's a land, so it comes straight into play, and that's more triggers for us. Now we can hold up Crop Rotation. Don't know what we want to get with Crop Rotation, but I think we will make use of that. Yeah, nothing else we want to do now, so we will just swing in with our commander and the Mystic Snake, and we'll swing in with Wood Elves as well. Offer up some trades to our opponent, or a trade in Wood Elves. They can kill that if they want to. And I'm much happier now that we've got Curse of the Swine in hand, because if our opponent goes for something like, what would they do? Probably a copy of Frost Titan with a load of plus counters on it with the Consuming Aberration. Yeah, we have to make sure to remember that we need to put an extra 2 mana into a Curse of the Swine onto Frost Titan because of that first ability. Alright, down comes the Mimeoplasm, and we'll see what our opponent goes for here. I think I would go for Frost Titan and put a load of plus counters on it with the Consuming Aberration. But no, instead they go for the Consuming Aberration and put 6 counters on it from Frost Titan. That's the exact opposite of what I would have done. And then they get 7 cards milled there with Mimic Vat. So I will just allow you to peruse that to your own leisure. They only have 1 card left in hand, so when we deal with their commander, I don't see that there's a whole lot else they're going to do. I think I'll get a Maze of Ith with the Crop Rotation just to play it safe. Assuming our opponent hasn't milled it from us, I don't think they have. Nope, there it is, Maze of Ith. Let's go for that. We obviously get more beasts and card draw and life gain. And then the Wasteland is good, that allows us to get rid of this, so that's 2 mana taken away from our opponent. I think we've got this one in the bag, but I won't count my chickens until they've hatched. Now then, let's reveal the top card with Nissa. We reveal Tireless Tracker and put it into our hand. We'll Brainstorm with Jace. What we could do actually is bounce the Consuming Aberration with Jace, and then Mimeoplasm's just a 0/0 in our opponent's hand. But let's dump some of these lands back on top. Prophet of Kruphix is really good. We'll get into a blue mana with the Misty Rainforest. Rexage on that Mimic Vat sounds like a great idea, if I do say so myself. Actually, I think because we're drawing the game to a close, we'll just go after our opponent's mana. Yeah, we were going to, if we get a means of playing an additional land this turn, Wasteland onto that I would have gone for as well. If the game wasn't looking like it was drawing to a close anyway, then I wouldn't start going for my opponent's mana, but if we're looking to draw the game to a close anyway, then I don't mind doing it really. We were going wide on our opponent anyway, and definitely would have gone for Curse of the Swine onto Consuming Aberration. That only would have cost us 3 mana to do that, and I don't see that there was a whole lot our opponent could have done after that. But there we go, we got to see just how Tatyova likes to play, and we were up against the Mimeoplasm. Saw a little bit of the Mimeoplasm shenanigans as well. A 33/33 Consuming Aberration. If you get hit by that, then it's lights out for you. Luckily, we managed to hold off the Mimeoplasm this game. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'm Tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.